we talk about youth, and there are new programs, new policy are being created day and night. And then, but the youth just want simple things. One example, I got some funding to help the young people to get the training, technical training. You don't believe this. We went around across the country to the constituencies. Do you know there were TVETs with nothing, just a building? And then we are talking about what? We are talking about youth. Simple thing, this person just want to do plumber. Can the government, can the county, for me it's a common sense, honestly, you know, when you make things complicated, you will go around and around. Let's make it simple. Let's look around your area. How many TVETs are there? If they want to be electricians, they want to do welding. I was shocked that I have the money, but there's no TVETs. So what I had to do in some school is to pay school fees for the youth, and then they use the money to buy the equipment. And we keep talking about youth policy, youth this. They are also not part of decision making. The secret, right now, Shofco is in 35 counties, and we are working with the youth and the community. People don't understand what's happening. The secret is that these people who are living in this tough lives or communities, you know what? They have the answer. Honestly, they have the answer. But sometimes we think we are so smart that we make decisions for them. That's why they tell us, kwa ground, vitu ni tofauti. Because you take your time and make it complicated. So simple things. So I know I have leaders here today, and I just want to encourage them, like as we work on the youth, when something has to be explained by too many names, that's my secret. Hiyo kitu wachana nayo. Hiyo wachana nayo. If you want to support youth and you have to struggle to explain what you are doing, nimesema tu jamani hapa hivi, TVET ziko. Mbona usinunue tu mashini, weke kwa TVET pale ndani? Hiyo haitaki kizungu mingi. That's the message. So simple things. And that's how we can transform this country, if we really believe in our youth. And lastly, and I knew about this, we are happy when they follow us. We give them 200 shillings, 30 shillings, 1,000, whatever, if they're the leaders, right? You don't know what you're doing. Soon, the monster will be uncontrollable. Seriously. And you've seen what's been happening in the country. That is a message to tell you that there is a problem here. And I know, and I feel I'm safe here, I can say, yeah? I'm with the youth, so I'm safe. And you might think everything is quiet. When you are hungry, you are angry. And sometimes, I remember when I was living in Kibera as a youth, and niko na njaa, I look for job, nimetafuta kazi sijapata. You know what happened? I was just waiting for a trigger. Mtu tu aniguze tu kidogo. Nini bwana wewe? Namchapa. But it's not about that. It's not about that. So as a country today, the youths are going through a lot. And if we don't act, they are waiting for triggers. Remember that. The reason that can make them go on the street is not that one. Might be a pain that has been there for long.
The first step is what the county government of Homa Bay just did yesterday in partnership with Shining Hope for Communities. It's coming up with youth-based policies. So the first achievement that the youths of Homa Bay County can be proud of today is the fact that now we have the youth policy. Because the county leadership requires structure under which the youth affairs are protected. And that is why there was that need to come up with a youth policy. You know, it becomes very difficult to appropriate or to allocate resources to support the youth programs if we do not have policies to that effect. So in order to support the youth programs, we need to have such policies in place.
I had prepared notes to speak to, but when I listened to Ken and his story at 16 years, what he did, and what that has morphed into, an organization that is in more than 30 counties in our country. He started as a young 16-year-old boy in Kibra. And if I ask Ken, he did not have a single policy to facilitate that action. I think it's not want of policy that we are not doing it. Is that we are lazy, probably, or the non-intentionality of us doing what we ought to do. Because the youth of our country are 75%. That's the number, the statistic. But I heard Ken ask us that we have what we call AGPO. So AGPO gives us what? I want an answer from our youth. What allocation do they give us? 30%. So you imagine in a population where you are 75%, but you can only be given 30% of opportunities. So the 70% goes to the minority, who are 25%. You know, is that policy that we are talking about that can empower youth? I bet that you don't agree it is. Because the youth of this country deserve more based on the numbers that are available. And I think those are the discussions that we need to have, candid conversations around, is the policy responding to a requirement that the youth has?
I listened to the story of Kennedy today and on Wednesday last week at Nairobi, and all success stories are born of resilience. All success stories are born of a little bit of patience, resilience, painstaking commitment, sacrifice. That is how success comes about. And one would like to dissuade the youth from giving away their fortune for little reward that comes now. Because that's what is happening. And that's why, that is the biggest reason why AGPO is not successful. Because we've taken the route, pay me 100,000, take 4 million contract, make your money, go away. The youth goes back to where they started. Now, the question asked, there's a question asked about how do we bring the youth into the fold. In my view, the biggest opportunity to make sure that the youth are engaged is to completely rethink the idea of public participation. Where will you find the youth? The youth are online, the youth are out here talking to themselves and talking to people. In my view, meaningful public participation is not an event. It is an ongoing set of conversations on topical issues, just like planning is not an event. Planning is an ongoing process. And if we get the voices of the youth for them to be heard, for them to be factored into the planning process, then you will find the youth feeling included, feeling recognized, feeling respected, because we must go where they are and hear their voices where they prefer to give their voices.
One area that I feel the youth are very keen on is education that must connect to opportunities. And how can we achieve this? We need to have market-driven skills, the ICT, trade, agribusiness. And if I do a comparison with achievements of our county, we realize that through the governor, we recently brought on board the Siemens Stiff Tank Technical Skills, where we see young people being supplied tools and equipment for self-reliance. So this issue about youth empowerment should not be a story. You must begin.
If the youth in this county or any county in Kenya decide that in 2032 we have a youth as governor and all of them mobilize and vote, they shall surely have. But what is the missing link? It is the commitment, It is the mobilization. It is creating that shared understanding of what we want. And that is why the question of what do the youth really want is not an easy question to answer. You will have different sectors of youth. There are those who will think ideology. There are those who will think material. There are those who will think identity. I come from this area, therefore I'll vote so and so. If they are able to come together, especially welded by ideology, the youth of this country will get anything they want. But it's a big challenge. But it's testimony to the power of the youth that this gentleman is an MCA.
Expect nobody to propel you into leadership. And I encourage all of us that let us forget about politics. Let us practice leadership. A leader will not think how he will win the next election, but he'll think how he'll impact the next generation. The water projects I've done are 38 in number, impacting generations to come in one word. Even if I die now, someone will be drinking clean water because of me. So I think all of us must start by doing, and if you have to critic or you have to criticize, be constructive, be objective.
So do not outshine your master. Always be under the footsteps of someone. Na kama vijana wa Shofco, tuko chini ya kiongozi Daktari Kennedy Odede. Tumpigie makofi tafadhali. And of course, every county has a leader. The nation of Kenya has a leader. And one thing I always say to these youths, ni kwamba you need to learn to work with the government of the day. We need to look at how we can be able to partner with the governments so that at the end of the day, service delivery comes to our people. But if we continue fighting them and insulting them, venye Mheshimiwa amesema, probably we may never achieve anything. So that is something that is so good, and I've personally learned from it, and probably I'll take it to where I come from.
But I think there's a lot to be done, and here government comes in through policy initiatives, through investments. Konza City is doing some of these initiatives across the country, alongside the Ministry of ICT, and there's a lot that counties can be able to do beyond providing chicks, beyond providing opportunities for TVETs. I think that gap has not been well taken care of in a lot of our counties. And my invitation is that our counties to partner a lot more, seeing how they can accelerate the process of getting our youth, to access these digital resources, wherever they are. Because you don't need that power in your house. We can have centers where they can be able to go to and...
It's great to have a dream, but unless you pursue your dream by aligning your actions, your utterances, your pursuits, how you spend your time towards taking it towards your dream, the dream remains a dream. And what we tend to do as human beings, when our dream is not realized, we'll blame somebody else. But let us please make the right choices. When you're online, make the right choices. When you have your dream, make the right choices and spend your time in such a manner that takes you towards your dream. Thank you.
Asante, makofi kwake.